Yes, good morning once again. Welcome back for yoga. Let me put these up. And we're going to be practicing a continuation of the teachings on Drhti, which I think is really relevant right now while we're watching the world events, which seem so far away, but we feel them in our bodies. For those of you who've been giving any attention to the news, I know your body's registering that. Mine is also registering that. So let's come into the practice where Drhti will be one of our sort of guideposts in how to proceed with the situation at hand. So please rest your hands in your lap. You're welcome to close your eyes. Bring your attention inward and downward for now to feel into your body, to get a sense of where you are arriving here in the present. And what are you bringing with you as well? One way that we might think of the teachings of Drhti, the Yama that says we want to have perseverance and fortitude, to have steadfastness even when there's adversity. One thing we might use as a translation there is, or as an application is, when adversity shows up, we don't forego the things that we've already been integrating or studying or cultivating. So we don't forego the previous yamas. We don't forego things like taking good care of our well-being, our hydration, our sleep. We don't forego things that we know to be wise. For example, walking, having a 20-minute, 30-minute walking break is probably more beneficial than 20 more minutes of powering through email. We also stay perseverant or steadfast in not doing things that disrupt or dissipate our vitality, like not eating the foods that would cause you to feel distracted, deflated, numb, lethargic, whatever the things are. And not doing those things that cause you to zig and zag on the mountain path. You could think of Drhti as a kind of recommitment when there's adversity or challenges or disruptions, vulnerabilities. So with that in your awareness, start to deepen your breathing so you can kind of cross-check your own internal commitments. Like, where do all those things lay with you? What is established? And what needs to be reestablished? And what needs to be updated? Anything you need to change in terms of how you make those commitments for what nourishes and how you commit to not doing that which dissipates. And please raise your hands to your heart. And we'll chant Asatoma Satgamaya. So let's begin. Om Asatoma Satgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Jyotirgamaya Mrityorma Amritam Gamaya Om Shanti 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 Hari Om Shri Guru Pyo Namaha Hari Om. With your exhale, you may bow your head to your heart. And release your hands and open your eyes. I think one of the things I may just add to that discussion there is we only need so many exposures to news and so many sources of news. So if you find yourself, let's say, on a cyclical replay of TikTok or YouTube or whatever the news sources are that you're turning to, and you find yourself getting tense, feeling isolated, feeling more overwhelmed, feeling helpless, not knowing what to do, one of the things might be to lessen your exposure to that, or to lessen your exposure to that on your own. So you might watch pieces of news with somebody else, even if you're watching it together in different locations, but you're connected by the mysteries of technology that can make that happen. Because being too exposed too often without being resourced or without feeling connected can end up feeling much more overwhelming, but also we can end up holding tension in the body or not processing the emotions of it. We just go into the sort of shock or despair, but we're maybe not moving actually emotion in the body. So I want to caution you against that habit, because I've heard from some that is a temptation. And then to the extent possible, I would recommend that our focus is on cultivating an inner resource of peace, so that when we're out about in our neighborhoods or we're here on this continent, we're less under threat right now, but can we walk about in such a way as we're not also fostering divisiveness in ourselves and others like that. So to the extent possible, to cultivate an internal shanti, the word is shanti for peace, and inner peace. So with this in mind, I'd like to work with the hips and pelvis today and to bring the Vata dosha back down, because it can be really helpful in staying more mentally grounded. And so to start, we're going to do some work on the floor. We're going to come up and use the chair, and then we're going to do some seated work on the floor with the chair also. Those of you who are studying yoga therapy will recognize there's a methodology when we say to bring the Vata dosha back home so that we are more grounded. So please take your two blankets like this and lie on your back with your hips on the two blankets, knees bent, feet on the floor on that side. Come down. You can check before you get established, just check that the knees will drop towards the chest with the support of gravity right here. And then touch your feet down. Take the arms out to the side. You may close your eyes and bring your attention down into the pelvic basin. And let's imagine that in here, the breath, it wants to come back home to the pelvis, to the lower belly, and that your mental chaperone can help to guide that process. And when you sense the breath is coming down into the pelvis, and that feels established, then raise your right knee up and bring it to your chest and shoulder. You can hold behind the hamstring. Now on the inhale, let's go ahead and straighten the arms and let the right knee drift away, like you're making space for the breath. And on the exhale, hug in. Squeeze your right knee in towards your shoulder. Okay, inhale. Exhale, squeeze in. Inhale. And exhale, squeeze in again. Imagine that you're helping also to squeeze the breath out. Now keep the right knee snug and lengthen your left leg on the floor. It's possible that your left leg won't straighten all the way. That's okay. You can have it a little bit bent, or you can put a block under it or put something there for your heel to rest on. And picture the breath coming down into the pelvis. So you are like if you were in a hot air balloon, you're landing the basket of the hot air balloon. So the mind knows where to come back home. Remind yourself that you're taking this yoga class or this period of refuge in your yoga to strengthen your resilience or your capacity for vulnerability or wisdom. So this isn't also a time when you're thinking, planning, reviewing, analyzing. With an exhale, bend your left knee, place your left foot flat on the floor. Now cross your right ankle over your left knee and press the right knee open using your outer hip muscles to do that. And as you're pressing open, also think about telescoping your right thigh towards your knee. So from the lower belly out towards your kneecap. And when you get a sense of that lengthening through there, then gently tone the lower abdomen and snug the pubic bone towards the belly button while gliding the tailbone, let's say, towards your left knee. And then start walking with keeping the pelvis stable. Start walking your left foot out. So you're going to have a little more opening and a little more opening for the right hip flexors. And you've got some hip flexors here that might be resisting. That's okay. Keep the pelvis stable. And imagine the right thigh still getting longer towards your kneecap. Connect into the deep lower abdomen, the area just above the pubic bone. And as you next exhale, raise up your legs and reach your right hand between, left hand around. And as you squeeze in, you can think of a little more squeeze on the exhale breath and a little more space on the inhale breath. and that you're squeezing in. That's your exhale. Go ahead and pause there and see if you could just apply a little bit of pressure from your right forearm against your right inner thigh, almost like you're pressing your knee out away from your shoulder as you're bringing the left knee and right foot in towards your left shoulder. And then hold your right ankle, take your right hand and hold the ankle itself. And you can wrap your hand around to hold the right heel also. Go ahead and place your left foot back on the floor. So when you're holding here now, take both hands to your right foot. Press your right forearm a little bit into your right thigh. And let's imagine that we're going to bring the right foot over to the left shoulder. This is, of course, imagination. Breath down into the lower pelvis. And then using your right hand, you can glide your right shin over to the pose we call happy baby pose, or this is going to be half of that pose, only the right leg. So you've got the right arm already woven around your right shin and your right ankle. So just take your knee a little bit towards the floor without rolling your pelvis to the right. Keep the left hip stable. Okay, and then let's release the right leg. Now try something here that I find interesting. Take the right leg straight out on the floor. And just see if you can notice the temperature and the circulation that's going down your right leg there. Think of it as a cleansing time because you had some compression in your right hip on purpose. Now we have the decompression. As you allow that to go back downstream, or as you observe it, if you couldn't really prevent it, but as you observe it, now pick up your left leg and squeeze your left knee in towards your left shoulder. And here we are going to use the moving of the breath. So inhale, straighten the arms, glide your left knee away from your chest. Exhale, slide that in. Inhale, allow the space. Straighten your elbows, press your left knee away from your torso. And exhale to hug in. And again, slowly, while keeping your mind established. The word for that is vastanam, keeping your mind established in the lower pelvis and the belly. Okay, and then as you've done that a few times now, squeeze the left leg in and lengthen the right leg more deliberately, more actively. You might put awareness on the right psoas or the right hip flexors. And practice keeping your mind, to the extent possible, grounded in the pelvis and the breath. And then slide your right knee up so your right foot goes flat to the floor. Cross your left ankle over your right thigh. And as you're pressing your left knee open, do that without the use of your hands, but with your hip muscles. And keep the pelvis centered. And so long as you feel you can keep the hips centered, when you're ready to, you can sort of walk the right toes out bit by bit until you have a different angle for your left hip and your left thigh. Keeping a sense of how you've pressed the knee open using your hip muscles. Now connect to the deep low belly and raise your thighs up. Reach around with the right hand and between with the left. And you could start pressing your left forearm into your left thigh so that you already have the sense that the knee is pressing away, even as you bring your right ankle, right knee, left ankle, right thigh towards your right shoulder. Place your mind in the sensations just right now, in this moment, taking refuge from world news, taking refuge from thoughts of past or future. So you're restoring your capacity. Holding your left ankle. So what you're going to do is place the right foot down, hold the left ankle and heel with the left hand like this. So you already have your arm underneath, right? You've got your forearm here in the center, and then hold, place your right hand there as well. And let's imagine that you're going to place your left heel on your right shoulder. In the process of that, of course, your foot, we're not actually going to place it on the shoulder, but notice what level of determination or elegance you bring to it. And we're going to take the left leg into that sort of happy baby position where you can use your left elbow against your left upper inner thigh, and the left hand stabilizes your ankle and your heel. Try to keep the right hip grounded and the right knee stable. And then we're going to release the left leg and take it out to that sort of circulatory position. So glide your left leg out. Reach from the back of your hip to the back of your heel. Imagine that you've kind of opened up a canal, like a waterway, and you're just going to watch that process happen for a few moments here. Okay, bend your left leg, place your foot flat on the floor. Let's put the two blankets aside. Lower your hips down, please. Now take both legs out straight and just ask if there was a canal, a system of a canal, and some waterways, some locks and channels, how much circulation is going down your legs right now? How is that feeling? Okay, and I'm going to ask you to put on your willingness, curiosity, and playfulness hats and roll to your side and come up and kneeling, and then reach for your chair. And I'm asking for this from you because we're going to do something that we don't normally do. I have not done this on Zoom, and I haven't done it on Zoom because I don't know what everyone's chair is like, but I'm hoping you have a chair that this is doable with. It's actually one of the more powerful ways to, noisy chair, just a moment. It's one of the more powerful ways to bring Vata and Pitta back down in the body. Okay, so please watch. We're going to pad the upper back of the chair, and that's very important, how you pad the chair. The height of the chair is also important. We have had this where, for some students, they stand on a couple of blocks on this side of the chair, but then other students are very tall and they have to start a little bit further back from the chair. So I just put a couple blankets right here because you're going to have the top of your pelvis is going to be right there over the chair. It's not your belly button. It's the place where your body creases. That's where you're going to be, right across the top of the chair. This is called supported downward facing dog pose. So you can watch here for a moment that I actually tippy-toed there because once I put the blankets on the chair, it's kind of tall for me. And then when you're coming forward, watch my feet, please. So the feet are going to end up dangling there. They're not touching the floor. And then I cross my arms so that I can turn my head to one side. The arms are on the metal part of the chair. My head and face are not. And we are dangling over the upper back of the chair. And since you do have bony landmarks and you do have a certain kind of chair, you have to make enough padding on the chair for that to make sense. Now, a couple of things that could be done if you have a very firm chair, you could put your yoga mat folded up and then over the top of the chair before the blankets. You could have the blankets folded more thickly. So like mine are not super thick. So you could fold the blanket that I'm using one more time in half before putting on the upper back of the chair. You can also arrange where your bones are a little bit just by researching so that that feels like an okay place to be. Please don't let the lower back arch. So in this position, your lumbar spine actually is more broad, not more arched. For those who like, you could reach your fingertips towards the floor. For some of us, they're going to reach. For some of us, they're not. Please don't make your head uncomfortable on the chair. Now we're going to walk the hands back to the chair seat, lower the toes and the heels down, okay, and then walk up to standing. And you might feel lightheaded. You might feel warmth going down the legs. So you can hold the chair if you get lightheaded, you know where you are, holding on to that which grounds you. But also notice now how the circulation, body temperature, breath temperature, all those things comes back down. Repeat this one more time. We'll do it twice. So we stay about a minute or two actually, and then we stand up to take a break, and then we'll go back again, which we'll do right now. So rise up. You might have to tippy toe. Come over. We do want your toes to dangle. They should feel like Christmas ornaments or like earrings. The toes would feel like earrings. They're just dangling. You do want your head and your arms to also be comfortable. So find your places and then think of it as a pose where you're asking for a certain recalibration in the body. This also provides traction for the spine, particularly the lumbar spine. So don't let the lower back be very archy right now. And again, do keep the feet and toes low. Raising your legs up is not necessary and not recommended here. Anybody who wants to, you can walk your fingertips down to the floor. Make it like a quote unquote a real downward dog pose. And then walk your hands back up to the chair seat, press down against it, lower your feet to the floor. Walk your hands to the upper back of the chair. And one more time, come upright and notice the big cleansing response. Your circulation, it's as if we turned you from an hourglass with sand. We then turned you upside down the other way and then right side up. Okay, let's take the two blankets and you can fold them to place them out of your way now. Thank you for experimenting. Thank you for being willing to do it. Please turn your chair around. And place your hands on the front of the chair, step backwards to this version of chair dog. And as you're reaching back, notice if the breath feels like maybe it becomes a little bit easier to reach into the belly. With an exhale, step your right foot forward, pivot the left heel to the floor, and make this into Birbhadrasana 1. So you can raise up. Warrior 1, press firmly down through your right heel, your right toes, but include your left foot, press back into your left heel. And then exhale, sweep the arms wide. And as you come forward, squeeze the belly over your right thigh. And then inhale, step backwards to plank pose. Okay, exhale, downward facing dog. Squeeze the lower belly. Okay, step your left foot forward. Pivot your right heel so it's in Birbhadrasana 1. And inhale, rise up. Okay, as you press firmly into your left foot, you give equal, if not extra, attention to your right foot, the back foot. When you're pressing down into your right heel, you might feel your calf muscle, you might feel your hip flexors. Tone your right butt muscles and lift up with your heart. And then exhale and squeeze over your left thigh. Touch the chair for a moment here and bow your head. And then inhale to plank pose. Exhale back, downward facing dog. Okay, walk forward towards the chair, rise up to stand, and now bring your two blocks onto your yoga mat like this. Place them each where your feet just were. Okay, so we're going to step up onto the block. You're going to see it'll change the dynamic for your hip flexors in the pose. So place your hand on the chair seat. Step backwards. Root down into both feet here. Lengthen your spine. And as you next exhale, step your right foot forward onto its block. Pivot the left heel so it's rooted. And then rise up, Birbhadrasana 1. Okay, tone your left butt muscles. And as you're reaching up with your heart, cross your elbows. Like a little bit of a back bend, raise up with the upper torso. Keep the left heel firmly grounded and tone your left butt muscles. With your next inhale, raise the arms up. Exhale, come forward. You're going to end up squeezing your torso over your right thigh. Inhale to plank pose. Exhale, downward facing dog. Okay, roll your right heel into center, step your left foot forward onto its block. Inhale, rise up. And as you're rising, go ahead and cross the elbows. Try to put the other elbow behind or in front and switch it up a little bit. And keep the right heel anchored. Tone your right butt muscles. Use your right leg like a taproot. Raise your heart, and even though the arms are over the head, don't rest your arms on your head. Keep lifting up so you're opening the lungs and the chest. And as you next inhale, raise both arms. And then exhale and squeeze the lower belly again. So when you come forward, make it a full squeeze of the torso against your left thigh. And then inhale to plank pose. And exhale, downward facing dog. Okay, take your left hand to put the left block on the right block. Then put both hands on the chair. So Drhti means to have steadiness even when there is a bit of adversity, or as I was saying in the last week or so, even when there's something new or unknown or you're improvising a bit. So I'd like you to place your right foot up on the two blocks. Pivot your left heel so the heel is on that little diagonal back there. Root down and rise up to Birbhadrasana 1. Cross the elbows. So the hips are coming forward. This is a back bend. Press into your left heel. Squeeze your left butt muscles. And as you raise up through the heart, now lift the arms and turn the palms. So you're going to do it like this. They turn and go overhead. I don't know how to say that. Braid your wrists together. I don't know the right words right now. And then inhale, reach up. And on this exhale, as you come forward, you're going to be able to squeeze your torso against your right thigh more because your foot has been elevated. So let's place the forearms down on the chair seat. Relax the weight of your head. Let the torso come to the inside of the right inner thigh. Relax through your head and your mind, your eyes and your tongue. And then place your hands on the chair seat and step back to plank pose. Notice the circulation of your right leg. Inhale to downward dog pose. Take your right hand and slide your blocks over. Be there for your left foot. And then pivot the right heel in slightly and step your left foot forward. Press down so that you rise up with stability. And then cross your elbows. So the hips are coming forward. Keep your right heel grounded. And as you're rising up through your heart, now raise the hands and weave the palms and the wrists. Probably it has a name, some sort of mudra, but I don't know it. And then inhale, reach up. Exhale, glide forward, squeeze your torso over your left thigh. And bring the hands down, elbows down, relax the weight of your head. Notice how it is to have some compression against the upper inner left thigh. Let the torso come down to the inside of your thigh to the extent possible. And then place your hands on the edge of the chair and step your left foot back, plank pose. So you'll be noticing there's going to be a little temperature shift down the left leg. And then glide back, downward dog pose. And please step forward and rise up to mountain pose. Notice where your mind is and what happens even with your mood. We're going to be using the chair for a seated twist, and I will be demonstrating for you how we set it up. There's a couple options for doing it. I'm going to turn my chair so you can see better. So let's do the right side first, since that is the ascending colon. So if you sit on your chair facing so that your right side is to the upper back of the chair, you can put a block between the two knees like this. So our first and kind of basic twist, a lot of you already know, we're going to be using the upper back of the chair to support the twist. Start by facing forward. Establish your feet. Establish your shins, your knees, your thighs, and then your mind into the pelvic seat. And then twist to your right. Hold the upper back of the chair with both hands. You're welcome to close the eyes and think of this as a mindfulness practice now, where you can really trace the breath coming down to the pelvis, and your mind is already there waiting for the breath. Keep your mind established. Tada drastu svarupe vastanam. Yoga is happening when we're able to establish the mind in the present moment. Place your mind again and again in the pelvis. We're going to vary this twist very slightly. Take the left arm down to hold lower on the chair. Take the right arm down to hold lower on the chair, and begin making a side bend that becomes a back bend. So you'll notice that you're going to be squeezing the left side of the torso, so that's down low, the descending colon. Inhale, rise up to the center and twist again to your right. Exhale like you're squeezing a sponge. And then rotate to face towards your legs. Notice how the circulation kind of recalibrates there. Drop your mind back into the pelvis. Now we're going to put this block down and do the second variation where the arm comes down between the two legs and you'll be holding the leg of the chair over here. So you weave the arm down, hold the leg of the chair. So the left shoulder is likely against your left knee. And that means that the knees can't come together. Place the right hand on the upper back of the chair and twist to your right. Where you're holding on the chair with your left hand, you can decide like how low or where to be because it's going to be stretching the left side of your back and that myofascial plane that goes around the rib cage. And even as you're exhaling to twist the lower belly, like you're turning the belly to the right. Exhale, root the low pelvis and sitting bones, rise up to your seat. And again, notice that there's this recalibration that's happening. Your mind take refuge right here in the present moment. And then walk around to the other side of your chair, taking a block with you. Place that between your knees. Lengthen up through the spine. So we start with the more basic version of the twist. Turn your upper body to your left. As you're rotating, notice the breath, always available to usher the mind back into the pelvis. Even more ideally, the mind is already there waiting for the breath to arrive and staying in the pelvis even when the breath departs. Hold a little lower on the chair so your right hand can come down, and that's going to cause some further contact of your right arm against your abdomen. Left hand to the other side, and we're going to do a little back bending. So add to your twist a little side bend and a little back bend. So notice that you're going to be squeezing the right side of the belly, which is the ascending colon. I'll rise up to center. And when you release the twist, notice the recalibration that's happening there. Give your tissues a chance to do what they do between these efforts when you're squeezing and releasing. We'll put the block down and take the right arm down between the two knees. Reach across to hold the leg of the chair. Place your left hand on the upper back of the chair. Twist to your left. Process of twisting, keep the mind established, low in the pelvis. So it's there when the breath arrives. It's like a door person, a butler, an usher. But also the mind stays in the pelvis when the breath departs. And then rise up, and again, notice the recalibration. Now, I'm going to ask you to do something strange, a little bit bizarre. Take a seat. You're going to straddle the chair like this. Okay. And I don't know what kind of chair you have, but if you could take this sort of straddle seat, I would be grateful. And I'm not too far from the wall. I would recommend the same for you, that you actually are near to something that you can touch behind you, whether it's the kitchen table, you're in the hallway, it's a door frame, whatever it happens to be. Okay, and check in for a moment and see if you're sitting pretty well. You have a good stability on the chair seat. And walk the left hand to the outside leg of the chair here on the right side. And take the right hand to the wall behind you. When you place it on the wall, you're adding support for your twist. One of the benefits of straddling the chair like this is that you can't have the left knee follow the spine in the twist. So you've got this tripod base, the pelvis is very stable. And as we're turning, imagine the inner belly rotating, but the pelvis is not going with you. It's like the inner organs are rotating around the spine. Taking your left hand across to the chair, take your right hand and reach it up overhead and add a little side bend to your left. Keep the right hip grounded. And as you're holding the chair with your left hand, you have turned your hand kind of what we would call palm face down to do that. So maintaining that, there is a side bend really specific. You're squeezing the descending colon, opening the ascending colon. And then let's raise up. Release your right arm, release your left. Notice. If you feel a little bit swimmy, your body is doing some recalibrating. Now take the right hand across to hold the leg of the chair there. So the thumb is pointing down, your palm is face down. Yep. And then rotate to your left. Take the left hand up on the wall behind you, or the kitchen counter, or the desk, or the lamp post, whatever you're using. Breath and the mind with your body. What is their relationship right now? And keeping your right hand fixed to the leg of the chair, begin to side bend to your right. Raise your left arm up past your left ear. Keep the left hip grounded. The chair is going to help you to know when you're grounded or not, but also let your mind remind your left hip. Squeezing the descending colon. I'm sorry, for you it's your ascending colon. For me, it's the descending. And then raise up. And when you come up, come back to center and notice again the cleansing response that your body is having. See if there might be a kind of space inside where you have room in your heart for Ukraine and the people. But you also have room in your heart for yourself, the local responsibilities that you have. But the heart is not closed to the global responsibilities. Ask you to stand up from your chair. Now, if your chair happened to be too tall for you to sit on there with your feet on the ground, I hope you put blocks under your feet. I have used my blocks as step stools many times in my yoga life. All right, let's place this once more like so, and take a seat. I'm going to recommend that we pad the chair at least like this, right? So whatever you have left to sit on, that's what you're going to be sitting on. Might be 2 blocks, could be your blanket. When you take a seat, so let's say that you were to put 2 blocks as if they were a blanket, or you had 2 blocks and a blanket, whatever you're going to choose there. I'd like you then to turn these on a little angle so that the right side of your blocks or blanket are closer to the chair than the left side. And then take a seat. And take the right leg under the chair and the left leg to what we call Siddhasana. Yeah. I'm sitting up on my blocks because with a left hip replacement that's still pretty recent, I appreciate the extra support there. And we're going to rotate towards the chair and come down so that ideally the forehead has a place to rest. In this resting, first we're going to get acclimated to the pose as it is. This is called Janusir Sasana. So picture your nervous system is kind of going inside right now and recognizing we don't need the sympathetic activators. That at the present moment we are safe and grounded. We're right here on our yoga mats together. And so let the nervous system receive the news to bring you back to what's called your ventral vagal parasympathetic hum. I'm going to invite you to lift your head and turn so that you're on your left temple. Take the left arm under the chair seat and reach across either to your right foot, which you can hold if you can reach it, or reach across to the chair foot. You can hold that bar, that's the front leg or the back leg of the chair. However you reach with the left arm, choose a place of stability. This is a forward bend and a twist. Root your left hip back on the blanket or the blocks. Keeping the left hip grounded, walk your left hand and your right hand back towards your seat so that when you come up, you're going to come up to sit, and notice that there's some blood supply that will go back down the left leg as well. Then stretch the left leg out. So you can put your legs into Dandasana, even if you're sitting up a little bit high. And notice the circulation going down, especially down the left leg. Okay, and then we're going to switch to the other side. So you have to make your little setup diagonal the other way, like this. And stretch the left leg under, place the right foot down, and the right leg in Siddhasana. Lift up through the heart, please, and then turn your torso towards your chair. And as you're reaching out, you do want your forehead to have support. So the chair is far enough or close enough for that to happen. You first want to get acclimated, so let your body realize again that you're here in a forward bend. Rotate your head to your left. So you're going to be on the right temple. Reach the right arm underneath. You might hold the foot of the chair. You might hold your own foot. You might hold the bar of the chair on the back. Remind yourself again, this is your time for refuge because you do care about the larger world, but this is your personal renewal right now so that you will be able to have more capacity, more Drhti, more fortitude. We're going to release, walk the right hand back, left hand back, and rise up to sitting. Notice again the circulation down the right leg just on coming up to sit, and then take both legs out to Dandasana. You might notice it a little bit further, more explicitly. Now, recommendation. We're going to put the blankets near enough by that you'll be able to reach for the blankets. Put your blocks near enough by that you'll be able to reach for the blocks. Please reach for your sandbag if you have one. And place that near to the blocks. Blanket that was on the chair can be folded to match the blanket that is at the ready over here. Like this. Okay. Now we're going to lie on the back and use the feet of the chair for an elevated bridge pose, which is also one of the building blocks to shoulder stand. We're not going to do shoulder stand this morning, but we're going to do this pose and then go into this restorative pose right here. We're going to use this restorative pose where we have the two blankets, the two blocks, and the sandbag. So what you do here first is you lie close enough to the chair that you know you can reach the toes of the chair with your hands. And then you place your feet on the front edge of the chair, and you'll be lifting your knees up to bridge pose with the feet flat on the chair. So you go like this, tuck the shoulders, and then up you go. Without pulling your clothing or your hair. And once you go up, don't turn your head sideways. Raise your tailbone towards your knees. Release your hands. Roll your spine down. Noisy chair and all. And then reach for the two blankets so you know where they are. You're just going to lift the hips high enough to put the blankets underneath. Place your feet and your knees, again, without choking on your clothing. So that's the basic there. If you're going to add the sandbag, it goes like this. Now, the thing about the sandbag is you can put each block medium, and then you have the sand really just across the forehead. And you'll have, on a 10-pound bag of sand, you'll have about 2 pounds perhaps of weight on the forehead. But you could also put the blocks on the flat setting, like this. And then you can place the weight of the sandbag across your head and onto those 2 blocks. And you're going to be including the temples, right? That you'll have some weight there on the temples also. And it's going to be more of the weight of the sandbag. So you always check that the sand is not going to be bothering your eyes. So no weight on the eyelids. Now just place the mind down into the pelvis. So it's already there when the breath arrives, and the mind stays when the breath departs. Imagine that you're resting your mind at the place where the inhale begins, where the exhale ends. Mind. Stay at home in the pelvis, even though the breath is coming and going. And it need not have any specific rhythm right now. It's more like a meditation practice. You're observing or witnessing. Sense the movement of the doshas to come back into balance. One way you might notice that is the mind becoming more still and quiet. You might hear the sounds of your own digestion. You may sense that your hands are getting warmer and heavier. Mind to come back to its home, a place of grounding and stillness, as the body does the same. to become even a few degrees more restful right now. So the body has permission for the same. We'll rest about 1 more minute. You may again hear the sounds of digestion within your body. You might notice if your hands are a bit warmer, or if the mind is okay taking its seat in the pelvis and not leaving even as the breath comes and goes. Keeping the mind at home in the pelvis, make only one change. We're going to reach up and just remove the sandbag from the head. If you were using that, slide it backwards. And then move the blocks out of the way so that what you're going to sense next is the quality of space that would surround the head. Then let the knees come forward from the chair, and you can bring the knees towards the chest. Notice that there's going to be a little circulation flow that goes back towards your head. And then roll to your side. And when you're ready, you can come up from side lying back to sitting to see what your meditative mind might feel like. Over to your seat. Just your hands in your lap. Listen for the possibility of a kind of integration that has happened between your mind, your body, your breath. And see how the word Drhti now feels like maybe an alive teaching, not a dusty teaching. Can you maintain a steadiness in the world's adversities and also in your own, whatever's local or personal to you? Ask inside your ability to sense to welcome in from the outside, like the larger world, could you include in your heart and in your mind more easily, more compassionately, maybe more intimately, including the people of Ukraine and also the Russian citizens who are protesting and all who are affected. Please raise your hands to your heart. The things to consider with all of the yamas is that they are more easily practiced when we have a sense of community, because these are the community principles or the community ethics of yoga. So knowing that others are making this effort is also a way of bolstering our own efforts. Thank you very much, everyone. Namaste. We'll close our recording so we can be together.